Welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. We are here live today in Adairsville, Georgia. I'm Larry Gardner. I'm joined by one of my hosts, Todd Corder, my producer, Mr. Wayne, the man, the myth, the legend himself there in Memphis. And we will have our special guest on today, the beat writer for the Atlanta Braves, covering them on behalf of the AJC. My man, Mr. Justin Toscano, he's going to join us as well today, and you can see him live on video. You can follow us all at ATL Prime Sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Our other host who's not with us today, JJ, man. You can find him on Twitter, JJ Get You One. Wayne's Twitter is RW Rod Jr. Todd Corder TC is what we call him. You can find him at Corder Todd. My Twitter, of course, is at LG, the number 4, real THO, so LG for real, though. And we are just going to enjoy this show. We're going to keep it rocking and rolling, and I'm glad to have my man TC on camera. It's been a while. Fellas, how y'all doing today?
Very well.
Fantastic. I'm ready to begin the interview with our guest. I've been looking forward to it all day.
Absolutely. And Justin, man, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We do appreciate it. We don't take it lightly, man. And I'm going to jump right into it. First of all, the Braves have been, for the most part, the hottest team in baseball. In spite of all the injuries, Justin, I mean, they continue to find a way to win. What do you contribute most to this team's success so far this year?
I think it's depth, and it goes back to probably a tenet that President of Baseball Operations Alex Anthopoulos has, that he said over and over, that as much as you focus on, I guess, winning the World Series, he really is more concerned with just getting into the playoffs. And he's had like different runs of kind of different scares of depth, right? Like in 2019, they had to rebuild that bullpen and did so through the trade deadline, lost prospects in the process. In 21, I think it was, they had that run where they used, 6, 7 catchers. I think I wasn't on the beat then, but it's just that I think he's gone through these different phases of, being a GM and just seeing how important this depth is. And that's what I attribute it to. The Braves have really, I think it's part of it's kind of analytics. And the other part is gut and feel. And they really get these guys like a Sam Hilliard who have tools, who have upside, where it hasn't clicked in the past, but it might in the future. And so now you're seeing, Sam Hilliard's playing really well. Eli White's another guy who's great defensively. Kevin Pillar is a veteran in this game who had a pretty good year in 21 if you look past the overall statistics and go to some of his stretches there. And he brings a lot to a ball club. And then you've got like just even the bullpen. I mean, they haven't had Raisel Iglesias for the entire season, Colin McHugh for most of the season and until yesterday. And they've still kept rolling. And that's just a testament to kind of what they bring in. Obviously, every team preaches depth, but it's about hitting on a couple of those guys. And they've done a really good job of that, where Sam Hilliard's played really well for them. Eli White's filled the role. Kevin Pillar is starting to play really well. Michael Tonkin has been good in the bullpen. Danny Young was good when necessary. Jesse Chavez has been good. Dylan Lee's been good. Everybody's moved up a seat because of all these injuries. And I think there are a lot of talented, probably a group of 5 or 7 rosters in baseball that you say, okay, they're more talented than the rest. The Braves have one of those, but they're not as top heavy as some of these other teams, which I think has really contributed to this stretch.
Good.
Todd Corder here. Glad to have you on. You talk about depth. You also got to talk about the depth in the minor league system. Bringing up Vaughn Grissom. Vaughn Grissom has had a little bit of fielding issues at the beginning, but he seems to have settled down. We know he can hit. He can hit for power. He's got speed. He's a 5-tool player. They're going to have a problem when the other shortstop, Arcia, comes back. What are your thoughts? What are they going to do? I'm going to throw this out to left field, quote unquote. Do they put Vaughn Grissom in the outfield? I kind of doubt it. They did it with Chipper Jones. Left field's been a problem with Atlanta, with Rosario and company. It's been an issue. Of course, center field is filled in nicely since Harris is out. The depth has really been tested, and they've had to go down the minor league system to get it. What do you think they do with Vaughn Grissom?
Yeah, no, I know. That's interesting. I mean, I think he has played well and he's hit well, and he's a real bat to ball guy where he's had some mature at bats, and it really, for a 22-year-old, it's been really good. Defensively, though, and this is nothing against Vaughn. Like I said, he's only 22. He's got more reps to get. Defensively, I think we've seen why the Braves preferred Orlando Arcia out of camp, and it hasn't been particularly close in that way. And like I said, I love Vaughn. Nothing against him. He's a terrific player. I just think that he needs a little bit of seasoning and a little bit more marination. He'll get that as he goes. I think it's interesting though because with how nicely center field has filled in Michael Harris's absence, I probably at this point see Brian Snitker using a platoon of Sam Hilliard and Kevin Pillar in left field. And then I think because I think it's worked nicely for them where they can get Eddie Rosario some time at DH against righties and then against lefties, Marcell Ozuna, Travis d'Arnaud when he comes back. And that kind of begs the question of like, where does Vaughn fit? Is it to be a DH? At this point, honestly, because they have so many other pieces. You can DH Travis d'Arnaud. I know Marcell Ozuna has not hit, but he's on the roster. You can DH Eddie Rosario. Because they have so many other guys, I honestly think it might just be worth optioning Vaughn. And I know that's not probably the popular answer with a lot of fans, but I just think that he can really benefit a lot from playing shortstop every day. And I think that he had started to benefit from playing every day and getting 4 or 5 at bats every day, plus playing shortstop every day in Gwinnett. I think that's probably the path to make him the best player. And I think it's interesting because everybody wants to be on the big league roster, especially when the big league roster is a team that could win a World Series this year. The Braves might need Vaughn Grissom again, but I don't know if it's worth sticking him in DH if he's not going to get that run at shortstop. I think you've got to give him an opportunity to develop, because if you stick him at DH, you're just faced with the same problem next spring. And if the Braves truly believe that in the long run he can be a better player than Orlando Arcia, which they see as a possibility, he's got to have reps. He's not just going to be able to, with another year of his life, going to be able to just do that. He's got to have the reps. And right now, because the outfield isn't a complete black hole, because you have Sam Hilliard playing well, you have Kevin Pillar playing well, you can platoon those guys. Pillar a righty, Hilliard a lefty, both play great defense. I think you're probably better served if you're the Braves optioning Vaughn and letting him just play every day at shortstop and just really get better.
No, I completely agree with you, Justin. And to piggyback on the Gwinnett thing, you got Michael Harris is actually beginning a rehab assignment in Gwinnett today. They're expecting him to go 7 innings and playing center field. Getting him back as soon as possible is going to be great. But not only him, talk about Michael Soroka and how he's just been mowing them down there in Gwinnett, and how we did our first initial talk about when we expected him to probably arrive back to the big league. So we were looking probably mid-June, closer to the All-Star break. Well, it looks like he may be back within the next 2 to 3 weeks or so. And how will that help strengthen an already pretty good Atlanta rotation?
Yeah, no, he's been really good. And it would be a heartwarming story, if and when he makes it back. You always need a lot of starters. And the reason Michael Soroka has been so important, other than showing that he's fully healthy, is because Ian Anderson went down. In the starting rotation, the rotation depth took a hit, at least organizationally. And if they want Michael Soroka for a spot start, or if they want to give guys an extra day in this stretch of 17 games, they could. But right now, the rotation is full. And I think a lot of people are sort of shuttling Soroka up to the majors in theory. But the Braves have a guy on the mound right now, Bryce Elder, tonight, that's doing really well and pitching to his strengths. And he knows who he is. He knows he's not overpowering stuff guy. He pitches to his strengths, like I said, keeps the ball on the ground. Who knows if it's all sustainable? We'll see. But this hasn't been 3-4 starts this year. This has been Bryce Elder since August of last year doing this when the Braves have needed it. And that's what I think poses, the challenge. But Michael Soroka, if he continues to pitch well, he's like this. He's going to make it up at some point this year. It'll just be based on need. Like if the Braves have an extra day, or they want, to give guys an extra day, or if somebody has to skip a start and they push someone back for arm fatigue or whatever it might be, he's probably going to be that first guy up at this point if he continues to pitch this way. They're already managing his workload, so he'll stay healthy throughout the season. But I don't think it's tough to say he's going to be, there the next 2 or 3 weeks or the next month or, in July and August, whatever it might be. But this is further than he's gone in 2, 3 years, right? Like he's giving himself a chance at the rotation and pitching this way. It shows the Braves that at least right now, in theory, they've got strong depth even without Ian Anderson because Michael Soroka is pitching well and they've needed Bryce Elder and they need Jared Schuster and Dylan Dodd to get some more seasoning. So that gives you a lot more confidence in your rotation depth and just your organizational depth, what he's doing.
My goodness, what are the Braves going to do with Marcell Ozuna? Because he's not a good outfielder and he's hitting under his weight. I mean, this is a real problem for Atlanta. They thank goodness they have the DH in the National League, even though I personally hate it. I'm an old school baseball guy, but this really helps for Atlanta to have him. What are they going to do with him? He's not hitting. They owe him a ton of money. Are they eventually just going to turn him loose? I mean, he's really not helping the club at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a tough situation. He's certainly probably the most, I mean, I guess in my view, I only got on the beat last year, but I'm trying to think of the last 5 years, certainly the most polarizing figure of the Anthopoulos era, I think. And yeah, they still owe him over $30 million, right? So you've got 30 million reasons to keep him on the roster. And that's kind of where it starts, just in my view, that, yeah, if he's going to be on the roster anyways, if you're paying him anyways, you might as well try to extract some sort of value out of him. Here's the issue. He's not good defensively. He's been relegated to a DH, and he's not hitting. So right now, there is no value. But I think the way the Braves see this is that he's not causing issues in the clubhouse. He's a good teammate. If he can find it, great. He can be a force. I think to them, like I know this is a polarizing topic to Braves fans, and I think to them, it's like obviously they don't want to waste a roster spot. And I think if it really gets down to it where Alex Anthopoulos thinks he's wasting a roster spot, I think Marcell Ozuna will be gone and they'll find a way to make it happen. But I think the thing that people need to remember is that Austin Riley, Michael Harris, Matt Olson, all these guys, Orlando Arcia when he was there, these guys play every day. And with the DH, you could argue that a team has too many bench players. And so the alternative to Marcell Ozuna, if he were not on the roster, I guess would be Eli White, Nick Solak. I mean, if you think those aren't bat first guys, so they profile kind of similarly to Sam Hilliard and Kevin Pillar. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't be more valuable because you could look at WAR, you could look at these other things. But if that roster spot, say the 24th, 25th, 26th man on the roster, whoever it is, like look at Adrianza, for example. How often does he play? Because all those guys play every single day. They post. And I'm not saying you waste a roster spot. I'm always against that. Like try to get as much value as you can, the best 26 guys. But it doesn't, you're almost throwing away depth to them if he's not causing any issues, right? Like a Madison Bumgarner in Phoenix was causing issues with other teams. A bad starting pitcher permeates and has more negative effects than a bad position player that you can just throw on your bench and not use. And I honestly think that they'll try to hold out a little bit just to see, like, hey, is he going to find it? One. And two, like, they can just, like I said, they can just put him on the bench because the 24th, 25th, 26 guys on the roster don't play that often anyways. So when Travis d'Arnaud comes back, if Travis and Eddie Rosario are hitting, well, it's going to be tough for Ozuna to find playing time, as it would be tough for Eli White or Nick Solak to find playing time to that degree. So I think I understand he's a polarizing figure, and I'm not, providing an opinion either way. I'm just giving a view of the situation where I think like it's a big deal to fans, and I totally see why. Like, look, Marcell Ozuna has earned the boost between the on-field performance or lack thereof and the off-field issues. People are going to boo. Like, that is the right of fans who want to be proud of the players they're rooting for. And right now with him, a lot of people are not. And I totally get that. But I think you can look at this in a situation where, like, okay, he could hit like he is now. And I guess it's really not the end of the world until it's not an issue until it becomes an issue. And I guess if you want to stick somebody else in that spot who's also not going to play, you could. But I think that's where it is with him. But like I said, Alex is not going to waste a roster spot. So if and when he believes, hey, this is becoming an actual issue, we can't do this anymore, it's costing them games, I think he'll pull the plug on it. But they entered today, 16-8. I mean, in first place. I think they can just when he does play, they can bat him eighth. If he doesn't play, they can sit him on the bench for a week. Like it doesn't for it there is no. I mean, there's only upside, but there's no real it's not killing them right now. And I think that for them, that's what they look at.
Awesome stuff, Justin. I got one two-part question left for you, man, and it pertains to the rule changes and how it seemed to. I don't know if I want to use the word propel or just rocket Ronald Acuna Jr. to some just mind-boggling stats to begin the year, not only hitting for average, but the way he's stealing bases, he's become literally swiping on the base pass. I think they said the last stat I saw that he's on pace to steal like 88 bases if he keeps this pace up. We've known the potential was there. First part, is this the year that we finally see MVP Ronnie?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, if he starts hitting for more power, he's only got a few home runs right now. If he hits for some power, I mean, God, like the guy, I know a lot of people only look at offensive statistics, but I swear to God, he makes a play in right field that makes you, and easily, and makes you shake your head where he makes a play at the wall almost every night when they need it. And I think that's one thing I noticed in San Diego. I was like, man, every play that's come to him, he's made. Like I can think of an error he's had, but that was fielding a ball. He's made every play that's come his way. I think if he starts hitting for more power, he's going to be in good shape because he's stealing bases, he's scoring runs, he's going to be in position with a good lineup for RBIs, you would think. I mean, he's coming out of the gate in the first inning, setting the tone. He's got to hit for the power because the MVP these days, you got to have at least 30 home runs, probably, and an OPS over 900, creeping to 950, depending on the year. But he looks as good as we've ever seen him, I think. I mean, people say, they bring up 2021 Ronnie. Some people might say it's better than that. But yeah, with the rule changes, it's impossible to keep a guy like that from stealing bases. Like your times, you can't do it. There's no way to control the running game. The only way is times to home. And some guys, pitcher X can't improve his time to home, like that in the middle of a game. I mean, guys they pitch out of the stretch, whatever, but there are just some teams you're going to be able to run on with these rule changes that they can't do as much about it. And then, like you mentioned, I mean, the restricting the shifts, just the overall rule changes. Ronald Acuna is a guy who's always, when he's going to have a high average exit velocity. And if you can't put that guy right behind second base or shaded, toward the outfield like that, it's going to be real tough to get some of those balls that previously were hard hit and ending up in gloves. So I think he's got even chances for more hits, but he looks really good in that everything you see him hit is just scorched. He's stealing one or two bases a night. It feels like two sometimes, like a night. I mean, he stole 3 bases in a game, for Christ's sakes, and he's making every defensive play. Like, I think he's definitely got potential. Last year, you didn't see the explosiveness. This year, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins MVP.
Well, he's healthy, and he's got to stay healthy to achieve these numbers. But I'm not for the base stealing rule. I can't stand it. I'm old school. I mean, he'd have 200 stolen bases. One last question, then we probably got to let you go and get your time up. The Mets, they've had injuries to Verlander. Now Scherzer has been suspended. So this seems to be, at the moment, it seems to be a two-way race in the NL East. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Mets, Phillies, Braves still because it's so early. I think the Braves are just the deepest team, and I know that makes me sound like a massive homer. And last year I said the Mets were the better team because they were for most of that season, and they looked more complete. But this year, I just think the Braves, top to bottom, are really, really good. And we've talked about Ozuna and his struggles, and certainly Adrianza and what can he do. But it's like every team's last man on the roster aren't great or have struggles. I think the Braves, though, with Sam Hilliard, Kevin Pillar, Travis, the different options they can throw out there at DH, Sean Murphy hitting like he is, I mean, sometimes you look at the Braves and you're like, how do you beat these guys? If you're an opposing team, like if they're going, if they're going, at least three of those guys are going in the lineup. You're like, how do you beat them? Because like for last night, for example, and I know it's only the Marlins, but it's like in one inning it was Grissom, Hilliard, and Pilar back to back to back, and it's like they have so much production and so much length in that lineup and production from all spots that it's tough. And I just think, I mean, the pitching staff, I mean, the rotation was the one area where I thought there could be questions. Like if Kyle Wright doesn't repeat what he did last year, if Charlie Morton never gets back and returns to the form he had a couple of years ago, things could get hairy if the fifth starter didn't work out. So far, everything looked good. And I thought the Mets were vulnerable to begin with. They spent a lot of money, but that was to maintain, not to add. And the Phillies, they don't look good right now. And we saw how they ended last year. So I'll, kind of hold my judgment on those teams. But I just think right now, this is the Braves' division to lose. And I think you could probably ask fans of other teams who they would least like to see in the playoffs. And it would probably be the Braves from this division. And I just think the Braves are the most complete team. And they have a really, really good shot right now, off to a good start with a terrific roster. They've got a great shot right now to be NL East champions for the sixth year in a row.
Now, that's some wonderful, wonderful stuff, Justin, man. And I appreciate you so much, man, for coming on and sharing with us your thoughts and all of the details that you've shown us about the Braves. And we agree with you so far. I mean, we've all had the points, and just seeing Colin McHugh, in Rome the last couple of weeks, getting some rehab work done and seeing the movement that he had on his pitches and having him coming back, it's just a boost to the bullpen and all those different things, man. It's just so much going on, and it's a lot to be excited if you are a Braves fan. This team can really go deep into the playoffs, and we're looking forward to seeing how far Braves Nation, or Braves Country rather, but they get me for saying that, Braves Country will be able to buy tickets down there at Truist coming up to the playoffs and hopefully going deep into October. So, Justin, we appreciate you for jumping on, man, for a few minutes, and tell everybody where they can find you stuff at, man, and announce your Twitter one time for us.
Yeah, heck yeah. So ajc.com, and then my Twitter is Justin C. Toscano, and then we've got a podcast everywhere where you can find them called The Braves Report. So, yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was a lot of fun.
No, man, appreciate it.
You follow us all and follow us on ATL Prime Sports. We'll make sure to retweet your stuff, I promise.
Heck yeah, man. All right. See you guys. Take care.
Appreciate it, Justin, man. Have a good evening.
You too.
Justin Toscano, the AJC beat writer for the Atlanta Braves, joining us and giving us some wonderful nuggets about the Braves, the season, and a lot of things going on, not only within the Braves organization, but the NL East as we speak. Well, we are just a little less than 24 hours away from the NFL draft, ladies and gentlemen. And I wish I had some theme music to go in the background, because in my head, all I hear is the old Monday Night Football sound effect going on in my ear. But nevertheless, we are less than 24 hours away from the NFL draft. So many rumors floating. Everybody's going crazy because Aaron Rodgers just got the Jet deal done. TC, your thoughts on the chaos that we can expect tomorrow, what some of our favorite teams might do, some of your intel, because you've been able to have some guests on some different Twitter Spaces podcasts throughout the week. Just intel from what you feel like some things are going to shake down that most of us don't expect to happen.
One, expect the unexpected. Two, nobody knows nothing except for the GM and the coaches and the owner. That's it. Nobody else in the building, none of the fans, none of the people that cover the team. They don't know anything. It's all speculation and it's all guess. I mean, tomorrow a trade is going to happen. And when it does, it's going to throw everything off. Everyone's going to have their board. Everyone's going to be prepared. But when the trade happens, then we'll see how the teams adjust on the fly. Now, they have more time to adjust in the first round than any other round. But adjusting on the fly and relying on the scouts who have done the work scouting these college players is critical for a draft. I expect the quarterbacks, from what I hear, to go early, but then again, I don't know how many are going to go early. I'm thinking at least 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. And that will depend on what the Atlanta Falcons do, because they're sitting at 8 and everybody thinking Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Jordan Robinson. Who's it going to be? And that's going to depend on Seattle. That's going to depend on Detroit. And that's going to depend on the Raiders. And until these 7 teams pick, then the Atlanta Falcons will know for sure who they're going to pick. Now, their biggest need, as you know, Larry, is getting after the quarterback and plugging the middle. So that leaves an edge rusher, or even Will Anderson, and that leaves Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, or the kid from Clemson and Texas Tech. That's basically what it's going to come down to. A lot of folks think the Lions are going to take Witherspoon the corner from Illinois. We're going to find out. I got a feeling if the Lions are there at 6, they've had a lot of success with a lot of Georgia players. I think they'll jump on Jalen Carter really fast.
Now, he fits Dan Campbell's persona to the T. He wants mean, he wants nasty, and Jalen Carter is definitely that. To your point, and Wayne, feel free to jump in on this one as well. I feel the way the rumor mill is speculatory, and there are 2 teams that they feel like going to move down, which are Arizona at 3 and Atlanta at 8. And those rumors are just flying hot and heavy. Usually where there's smoke, there's fire. If I'm Atlanta and I can move down, say to 10 with Philly, or even a little bit further down with Tennessee, and still get what I need, because I'm telling you, we all know you can never have enough people that can sack the quarterback. You can't. And even with the addition of Bud Dupree, that's all well and good, but you still need enough people that can sack the quarterback. I would love to take a defensive person, but the more I've been into it, I have been, and y'all can crucify me if you want to, but if I could move back, grab another pick, and take Bijan Robinson to kill in Texas, I know people are going to look at me and be like, what? But here's the example I use. The last time the Falcons had the number 8 pick was the unit selected Vic Beasley. The pick right after that was Todd Gurley. Look at both of their careers.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. If you don't mind me saying, that's a really good point. If they trade down, you always get an extra player. I'm for that. But I can tell you right now, if they trade down and switch with Philadelphia and Philadelphia gets Jalen Carter, the fan base is going to lose its absolute mind in this state.
Well, I'll tell you what, you could, if they move down, the Eagles take Jalen Carter. You could save face if you drafted Nolan Smith. But
that's true. That's true.
Do you want to draft him that high? If I'm Terry Fontenot, I've got 3 people on my big board. I've got Miles Murphy from Clemson. I've got Bijan, but I want him a little bit later in the first round. And people gonna laugh at me for saying this, but I got Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. And the reason I say that is year after year after year, people keep sleeping on these Big Ten pass rushers, and all they do is get to the league and produce. Look at the Bosa brothers. Look at the Watt brothers. You know, they get to the league and they continuously produce. And yes, they may have injury issues as well, but it's because their motor goes 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I can't even remember the last time Atlanta had a defender, maybe John Abraham, that had that type of passion when it came to getting to the quarterback. I think the Atlanta fans would love to have somebody with that type of motor and that type of drive. And we all know everybody loves Jalen because we saw what he did. It's all well and good. Is he going to fit along with what Ryan Nielsen is trying to build on the defense? Is that going to fit? You have to ask yourself that question, because if I had to go right now and give you a mock 1 through 8, number 1, Carolina can say what they want to. I'm thinking they're taking Bryce Young. They're trying to throw smoke and mirrors. They will take Bryce Young. Number 2, Houston, if they got any sense to them whatsoever, because they've got the 2nd pick, and I think they pick at number 12. If I'm them at number 2, take the best quarterback that'll be available, and then at 12, I get my other best partner to get him some offensive help or an offensive tackle to protect him. You know, if you've seen the movie The Blind Side, if you're a homeowner, the first check you get, the first one you choose is the mortgage. The second check is the insurance. So you got to have your mortgage, and then you got to check your insurance. I think that's happening. Depending on what Arizona does, if they stay at 3, I think they go Will Anderson. If they trade, all bets are off. You don't ever know what they may come up with. The key is 4, 5, and 6.
It sure is.
You know, the Colts, I think they are in love with C.J. Stroud, but they don't want nobody to know it. And I think because of that, they're trying to throw the smoke in the mirrors, talking all this Will Levis talk. Depending on what happens there.
Before you get to all that, and I think the whole thing's just going to blow up. There's going to be a trade. It's coming. We don't know who. We don't know when. And we'll find out why. I just sit here and think, my goodness, how can we pick where it's going, where we don't know where it's going? Carolina could trade out of the one spot. It's possible. We've heard people say it. It wouldn't surprise me. Nothing would surprise me when it comes tomorrow. But for me, pound for pound, Bijan Robinson is the best player in this draft, right along with Will Anderson, the linebacker from Bama. And if any team can get one of those two, they're in business, because those players are going to play for 10 years in the NFL, and they're going to play effectively. And, a good linebacker and a running back, could you imagine the Falcons with Robinson? They would play him along with Algier. Goodness gracious, they would have a 1-2. You'd be able to run the ball. You've got a good offensive line. It would take the pressure off Desmond Ridder, control the clock, keep your defense off the field, the Falcons' defense, and you can win a lot of games in the NFL. I know that's the old school and boring way of doing it, but when fans see wins, they're not going to care.
No, not at all. Wayne, if you had to put money right now, take it to the Vegas books, baby, and say Atlanta, with the 8th pick in the 2023 NFL draft, the Atlanta Falcons select.
I would say it's an edge rusher. I mean, I don't know what'll be available. It'd probably be the top pick of edge rusher, but they definitely need more defense than anything.
So you think we're going to go defense?
Yeah, I would. That's just me, though.
Well,
what's your gut feeling? Who are they going to get, Larry?
My honest gut says they're going to trade out of it. The two biggest rumors that I've heard, and they've been getting heavy here lately, is the Commanders have been ringing the phone and dangling one Mr. Chase Young.
Yep.
I coming out with ACL tear. You don't know that those types of injuries with speed guys. It's tough to come back from. I'm not saying he can't, because he's one of the most determined individuals you ever see on a football field. But the reason for the draft is so you can build for distance and time, for longevity, not for the immediate impact. And everybody, sometimes you want that Lamborghini real quick, but sometimes you need to get that Ford Explorer. And I know that's a bad analogy.
If you have them trading down, I have them trading down too. I do. Now, if they don't trade down the way it's going, I'm with Wayne. I think they select a defense alignment, but if they don't go there, Robinson's the guy. That I'm covering my Kabaska in 3 different directions. I think it's good to trade, but if it don't happen, they're going D-line. If they don't do that, they're getting the running back. That way, you know what? Nobody knows nothing, and I'm just covering myself.
No, TC, man, as a Falcons fan, listen, if I heard one of these 3 names, I would probably be excited and ready to just bring it on. And the first one is, if I heard Miles Murphy, I just jumped through the roof. If I heard Jalen Carter, I would be apprehensive, because if you're going to run a 4-3 like what we ran in New Orleans, then your 4 down linemen, you're going to have Bud Dupree, Calais Campbell, Jalen Carter, and Grady Jarrett as their front line or defense. Okay, that's stacking some heat, and then you get depth. The one thing Justin was talking about with the Braves is the one thing I would love to see with Atlanta, and I think that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to build depth so that when you do so, you don't lose any talent when you come off of it. If I heard Miles Murphy, if I heard Bijan Robinson at the right place, I want to 8. I would let have a 10, maybe 11, even maybe a 12. And if I heard, and y'all gonna get mad at this one too, y'all, I'm gonna get with it. But if I heard Christian Gonzalez, I'm turning back
You
for
know
it.
what? If you don't mind me saying, one player that kind of concerns me is the kid from Iowa. He didn't start at Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, you didn't start at Iowa, but you're going to be picked this high. But then again, these scouts, these evaluators, they do their homework. They're right most of the time, way more than they're wrong. I mean, I just found that ironic. And then, you look at the Florida quarterback, Anthony Richardson. I mean, he did some good things in college, but he surely didn't look better than C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or Hendon Hooker. We haven't talked about Hendon Hooker. This is a guy, and this is my gut feeling. Again, we don't know anything. That kid's going in the first round. And where is he going? Nobody knows. I know he's coming off the injury, but I think he's better than Richardson of Florida, and I think he's better than Levis of Kentucky. We've all seen the tape. Hendon Hooker is special. If I'm thinking, good golly, that would be my third quarterback off the board if I was going to put him in order, and Stroud would be my one because of the size. He's more NFL oriented than Bryce Young. Bryce Young, you worry about the height. I mean, they still do today. I still think he's going to be a good player, but I would go Stroud, Young, and Hooker. Those would be my top 3 quarterbacks.
With a hot take tie with the hot take of the evening, saying that he would draft Hendon Hooker within the first round. One more quick point, gentlemen, as we wrap this up and get ready to rock into our final points of the show. The thing that I don't necessarily kind of stands out, but the thing that we notice here is GMs and things that I've listened to here this week leading up to the draft. GMs say that they pay more attention to tape from people who played in the SEC, big time Ohio State, some Michigans, the Georgia, the Bamas, the Texas A&Ms, the LSUs, and they pay more to the attention to those tapes because they are playing other players who are first round talent on most days all season long, and I would be shocked if we didn't see at least 20 players out of those schools: Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida, those schools, because the tape does not lie.
No, it does not, Larry. But you know what? Where these drafts are won, it's all glitz and glamour for the first round. The second round, you get a solid player. In the third round, they're pretty good. But every draft and every NFL team has built rounds 4 through 7. How do you draft there? How do you do getting an undrafted free agent? Because there's always one that makes a team or a couple every year. This is how you build your roster, and this separates the haves from the have-nots. And speaking of have-nots that have become haves, if you don't mind me adding this, we got Aaron Rodgers is going to the Jets. They went from the have-nots to the haves. Their defense is really loaded. They need to improve the takeaways. They're set at receiver. He's got more talent than he had in Green Bay. They're set at running back. They're going to draft an offensive lineman at 15, and they're ready to rock and roll. And Aaron Rodgers is motivated. His number only counts 15.7 mil against the cap this year. So he set the Jets up for a solid 2 years. He's at least committed to 2 years. And like he did in Green Bay, he's going to be there starting tomorrow. It's not quote unquote practice, but he's going to work out in the offseason to get to know his players. He's got Nathaniel Hackett there. This team's ready to rock and roll, and I can't wait to watch them play. That's one of my AFC teams that I can't wait to watch, and I can't wait to watch Detroit play. Because once they build their defense, and they're going to build it through the draft, there's no question. These two teams can go a long way along with Jacksonville, and we could see some new blood in the NFL.
But you better hope that A-Rod, as we're going to refer to him as, can compete in his own division, because with the additions that both the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins have made in this offseason, not to mention what they may do during the draft, he's going to have to fight heavy in his own division. That division in football is very similar to the AL East in baseball, to where the teams top to bottom. I mean, we don't know what the Patriots are going to do.
The great point.
Team top to bottom, he's going to have to fight. And if he gets through the AFC East, come playoff time, he'll be battle tested and he'll be ready to rock.
Oh, no doubt. And there's still a guy named, what's his name? Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. I mean, I think the AFC is a little stronger than the NFC. We'll find out. I mean, it's going to be a fun NFL season. Can we go back to what Justin was saying? He did say the Mets didn't add somebody. They did. They added Justin Verlander, who's a horse on the mound. And this horse is getting ready to come off the IL. And look out. This is going to be a two-team race. I mean, the Phillies, when they get Bryce Harper back, is going to help. I don't know. You know, when you look at baseball, 5 of the 6 division leaders weren't predicted to be in the lead right now. One of them is Texas. The other one is Pittsburgh, which Pittsburgh's the best story in Major League Baseball, along with Tampa Bay. You know, it's going to be maybe we're going to get a season of unexpected. I know everybody's talking about the Braves and the depth, and they're really good. But now that there's more teams in the playoffs, there's a lot more chance for an upset. And we've seen it in the NL the last year. We've seen the last 2 years. Atlanta wasn't expected to get there. They did. The Phillies weren't expected to get there. They did. I think expect the unexpected. Somebody's going to come out of nowhere. And now it's even harder to win it all because you have more tier of playoffs.
No, you're absolutely right, TC. Not only to mention that, the rule changes are actually going to help you there as well.
I don't like them there.
Yeah, well, I know, but and even with those things, their parity is much more stressed out. You don't just have the dominant teams like we used to, that we just used to know that was going to be there toward the end of the year. You were going to see the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Braves. You were going to see those what we call blue blood teams in baseball. Well, now it's so even unless you're just at the bottom of the barrel, it's competitive enough to where anyone can beat anyone on any given night, depending upon the arms that you have in your rotation and how deep you are from 1 to 9, especially with the universal DH. It's all anybody can win in any given night. And when you're talking playoffs, especially where wild cards are just one game, sudden death, it is what it is. We're gonna go home.
That's nuts. You're playing 162 games a year, and you're going to decide it on one game. We all know what that's about. The money. Show me the money from the Pee-wee to the pros, and you'll get your answer. And also a question I would like to ask Justin more time. What does he think Atlanta's going to do at the trade deadline? And I'm thinking left field is going to be something they're going to try to plug and play. I don't see Marcell Ozuna in this team after the All-Star break unless he starts hitting or after the trade deadline.
Well, it goes back to what Justin said. Marcell at this point is a commodity, because Sam Hilliard is doing so well,
Right. You're going to pay a guy $30-something million to sit on the bench? I guess, but I know the old Liberty media wouldn't do it. They got a top 8 payroll, but old Liberty media never did it. And the Braves are one of those teams. Like they picked up Sean Murphy. It took him a little bit to get going. He's fine now. They picked up his teammate from the A's, Olsen, a year ago. He started out slow, but he got going. So this is a franchise that seems to always find a way, but finding a way in the regular season, in the postseason, is totally different.
Most definitely. So, gentlemen, as we get ready to wrap up another episode of ATL Prime Sports, I want to go around the horn. We'll start with you, Wayne. Final thoughts for this show, my friend.
Well, I'm going to touch on a little bit of automotive racing here real quick. And congratulations to Kyle Busch for winning the lengthy Talladega race. He barely finished running on fumes, but, that's the way it is sometimes. You You win because of luck or because of good gas mileage. That's weird. And the and if you want a treat early this Sunday morning, I believe it's 9 o'clock Eastern. You can tune in and watch the Azerbaijan Formula One race. They race in the city streets or old city historic streets of Azerbaijan. It's an extremely fun race to watch.
I can't believe he didn't mention his Toronto Maple Leafs. We said it before we came on the air.
I'm too nervous. I'm too nervous to talk about Toronto.
Okay, well, I'll do it for you. You can talk with me and Larry too. They're up 3-1 over Tampa Bay in the first round. If they got 3 chances to get 1 win, and if they do, it'll be their first series in what 10 years that they'll win. They'll get out in the first round. And this is a franchise that hasn't won the Stanley Cup since '67.
Yep.
The Cubs and the Red Sox of baseball before they got over the hump. And what's their present in the second round? These guys, the Boston Bruins, when they eventually dumped Florida off, and only the Bruins had the best record in the NHL. They had the most points ever. Of course, the overtime loss helped that over, but the big number to me was they broke the Detroit Red Wings and the Tampa Bay Lightning's record for regular season wins, and that's who they'll draw in round 2. You want to talk about some television ratings for the NHL? Toronto and Boston, 2 original 6 teams. Toronto with Austin Matthews, Boston with its plethora of stars. Wow, that's going to be an awesome series. I don't want to jump and go ahead, but I'm doing it anyway. And the NHL has been tremendous so far. I see the Islanders getting the Canes and beating them Friday and getting a Game 7. Let's see. The other series is I see the Stars dumping the other former North Stars, the Minnesota Wild. I see Los Angeles was up 3-0 in the second period, going in second period on Sunday. And Edmonton and Connor McDavid went ahead and scored 3. They got behind 4-3 and they won. And now they're up 3-2. Los Angeles is in trouble. Just to talk about some of the other series, you saw the Devils real quick. They were down 2-0. They play a 22-year-old goaltender. They win 2 in Madison Square Garden. The kid that only had Schmid, who only had 18 starts in the NHL. This is what the NHL playoffs are about. Expect the unexpected, just like the draft on tomorrow night.
Awesome, TC. Awesome, TC. Man. My final thought is simply this. After the performance that one Mr. Trae Young displayed there at the Boston Garden, I need to let everyone know that you can go ahead and squash the overrated talk for the Atlanta Hawks point guard. He only goes in and puts up clutch performances time after time after time again in the playoffs. If any other point guard in NBA history with an average of 30 and 10, not only just in the regular season, but in the playoffs, we'll be talking about legendary stuff. But because it's Trae Young and it's in Atlanta, the media wants to push the narrative that he's overrated, that he's not the type of player that and I hate to use this one because I know who your boy, but John Moran is, or any other elite quote unquote point guards in the NBA. Your sidekick is out. DeJounte Murray, what do? You go up and you never a 3 from 30 feet to win and push it to a game 6 when everybody thought that you were going to be swept. Trae Young, you're still our guy. Keep doing what you're doing. Hashtag together 404. Hashtag Janet Jackson can't be in the doggone State Farm Arena tomorrow night, baby, because it's house basketball going on in Atlanta. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude another episode of ATL Prime Sports. Follow us out, like I said, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. For JJ, who's not with us tonight, for your brother, everything's going well. For Wayne in Memphis, CC in Woodstock, hope what you won. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Our thoughts and prayers are with you, JJ. We'll see you next week.